everybody, hope you're all doing really well, and these are my thoughts on the first 2 episodes of Doctor Who The Flux. So if you haven't seen the new series of Doctor Who, it's a 6-part serial, which is the first time that the show has done that since the classic era, and the first 2 episodes have aired so far. We've seen the Halloween Apocalypse and the War of the Sontarans, and we're discovering slowly the story of the Flux. That seems to be the sort of big catastrophic event in the universe, and watching the Doctor and her companions deal with it. And I'm really enjoying it. I kind of just wanted to just talk out my thoughts about the Flux so far and its place within the era and things, and yeah, I just have so many thoughts. I just kind of want to just shout at you for a bit. So, I mean, my own thoughts on Jodie Whittaker's era of the show as a whole is not the strongest, it's not my favourite. I did enjoy series 12, particularly things like the Fugitive of the Jadoon and the Haunting of Villa Diodati. But you know, whereas its strong episodes were quite strong and its weak episodes were really weak. It was a very mixed bag. Series 11 was boring as fuck and I really didn't enjoy that. But I do enjoy Jodie's portrayal of the Doctor overall. I think it's very interesting having this incredibly socially awkward Doctor who keeps all her cards to herself sort of thing. I quite like how that dynamic is sort of explored between her and the companions, particularly Yaz, although I do wish that they kind of lent into a little bit more. But, you know, I do enjoy her series as a whole. I do enjoy her portrayal of the Doctor. I think she's doing a fantastic job in considering what she gets given and what dialogue she gets given to read out and stuff. You know, she still does a very good job, all things considered, when the writing's not perhaps the best. But I'm really loving the Flux, and I think it just suits Chris Chibnall's writing style so much. He clearly has these huge ideas, you know, with stuff like with the Timeless Child and Division and stuff. He's clearly got massive ideas, and the anthology episodic style that Doctor Who has taken since the reboot just doesn't work for his... I just don't think that works for his writing style at all, whereas this 6-part serial I think was just a genius idea. To inject something new into the show after the sort of, you know, reception of the last 2 series, as well as they just matches his style so well, and it means he actually has time for all his different ideas, which I'm really enjoying. You know, I'm finding that it's also a very good way, I think, especially off the reveal of the Timeless Child, to have such a big story following that. I think is just such a good idea, because it kind of keeps, you know, upping the ante a little bit, rather than just big reveal and then back to sort of villain of the week episodic format. And I mean, my own thoughts on the Timeless Child is I'm perhaps not the biggest fan of the fact that it's the Doctor, but I do like the idea of her having previous regenerations that she doesn't remember, and I like how that's being handled here with her past with Swarm and how he remembers but she doesn't, and how that just is kind of unfolding. I'm finding that really fun to watch. Overall, the Halloween Apocalypse I think was a very good episode. You know, a lot of people complain that it just felt like a trailer for the whole show. I mean, my friend from uni said the same thing, but I liked it. I think it did the perfect amount of set up this, gives a huge big teaser of to what's to come, start the story, start the ideas, introduce everything, give you teasers for what's to come. You know, we get to see Claire the Weeping Angel, we get an indication of the Sontarans, you know, we get an idea as to what's going to come, but still not everything. You know, we didn't see the Cybermen, we didn't see the Ood, you know, we still haven't seen absolutely everything. And I do just think that it was just the right amount of look at all this stuff to come, just to get you so excited and stuff. And then the War of the Sontarans I think was a perfect follow-up in the fact that it then takes just one of those things, so the Sontarans, and starts building on that with one plotline, and then bringing in this other plotline with the Planet of Time and stuff with Yaz and Vinder and stuff there. I thought it was just really well balanced. It was a fun take on a celebrity historical as well, taking in a sort of slightly unknown historical figure, or at least not as well known. I do think that's one thing that I would love Doctor Who to do more, is go into historical people and events that perhaps aren't as widely known as stuff like, you know, Charles Dickens or Pompeii and things we've seen in the past. I think it is just a fun way to almost educate people about slightly lesser known bits and pieces in the world. And yeah, I mean, I really loved both episodes. I do find just that everything is just being paced so much better. I'm liking the Doctor's portrayal so far. I'm loving Yaz in this series as well. She feels more like an assistant than a companion, and I actually quite like that development of her character, because she's so dependent on the Doctor these days. You know, I kind of want to see how that unfolds, but then it also means that with the introduction of Dan, you've got the assistant in Yaz, but then you have the companion with Dan, and I think that just allows for them to not feel like too crowded of a TARDIS team. Speaking of Dan, he's an absolute delight. I love him. Oh my gosh, he's so sweet. I was a bit apprehensive when we were getting a new character and stuff, but I really, really like his portrayal so far. I think he's a very fun addition to the TARDIS team. I like his... I just love his like quirks and stuff, and just how he's just sort of taking everything as it comes. I think he's just a very sweet character. You know, I'm so excited I think for the Weeping Angels episodes. I mean, I have to say from series 1, the Weeping Angel was in that episode for like a minute and it stole the entire show, so like I'm so excited to see what happens there. And it's just, I'm liking as well the focus on the Division rather than the Timeless Child. As I said, I prefer the idea of the Doctor being part of the Division and not remembering that more than the whole idea of she's the Timeless Child. Although I'm very curious to see how that's going to come into things. I have a feeling that's going to be very relevant with the Planet of Time and Swarm and Azure and all that shit. But in terms of like what they're focusing on, the fact that she's, you know, starting off by looking for other members of the Division to try and work out what she got up to, and that's how she sort of came across Carvanista, who I also love. I think he's perfect levels of weird and campy, and it's just a great fun seeing him and Dan interact. Like, I love their stuff. But you know, as I said, because I prefer the Division, I like that we're focusing more on the Division than on the Timeless Child stuff, and it also like gives us the impression that she's almost in denial about that, so she's focusing on this other part of that reveal that the Master gave her. Yeah, very, 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 very fun. I think it was the right decision to do, particularly after how controversial Timeless Child was. And I just can't wait to see what that was all about, and obviously it's definitely got something to do with Swarm and Azure. Speaking of Swarm and Azure, fantastic villains. I mean, I love their design. They're just so flamboyant and gorgeous. Like, I just love the design. I can't wait to find out more about them, you know, especially Azure, like what she was doing on Earth as that human. What was that, you know, warning that she destroyed? Who was her partner? I really, really want to get some answers about that. And I think Swarm as well is just such a great villain because he's got this knowledge of the Doctor. He just knows how to press her buttons and how to torment her. And he's just nasty, and I love him. And he's just such a great villain that Chibnall has come up with, and I really, really like both of them. Vinder seems quite interesting, but I don't quite understand where he fits into the story just yet. We've only got little tidbits of his backstory and stuff. I am a bit worried that he's just going to be one of the sort of add-on characters, so I do hope that they actually do something interesting with him and he actually gets a bit of interesting development and stuff. But yeah, I don't quite know how he works into the story yet. And in terms of things to nitpick and stuff, you know, the CGI is not the greatest, which kind of annoys me because you kind of want them almost to... It's like they've gone for too many CG shots, and it would have been so much better, I think, if they'd had 1 or 2 big money shots and they funneled their CG budget into that to make sure that they look good, and then just improvise with everything else. You know, Doctor Who was at its peak when it had a shit budget and everything was filmed in the same quarry in Cardiff. You know, you don't need huge CG scenes for it to be a good sci-fi show. And I think the fact that they seem to think that is kind of letting it down visually and stuff, and it really takes out the narrative and stuff. That, along with the expositional dialogue and the clunky dialogue and stuff, it just gets a bit kind of rough around the edges sort of feeling. And I think Chibnall also has a bit of a habit of like forgetting about characters or not utilising characters as well as they would have been. In particular for this example, I kind of want to talk about Diane and Dan's mum and dad, both of whom just kind of feel a bit random. So Diane almost feels forgotten about since the first episode, and Dan's mum and dad didn't need to be in that episode, because I think it's just lacking that ever so slightly that like cohesion that it could have, that's right there, that would have just made things feel a bit tighter. So in episode 2, Dan ends up back on Earth. What would have been good, I think, is after he, you know, gets found by the Centaurans and he runs away from them, if perhaps the people that saved him from that would have been perhaps, you know, the women from the food bank that we already met in episode 1. I feel adding in his mum and dad was a bit too random, to be honest, and then they were just there for exposition. Whereas if we'd had that woman that we already met in the first episode, it's a familiar face, it just brings things together again. You don't need to introduce somebody new, we know how they know each other, we've seen a bit of their dynamics sort of thing. You know, we could just explore their friendship and how well they know each other through this interaction. Secondly, Dan going into the Centauran camp, I think that would have worked better if he was looking for Diane, because she's gone missing. You know, it's been a couple of days since he went missing. If he came back and perhaps his friend from the food bank mentioned, oh, I haven't seen Diane in a couple of days, and in particular when, you know, he's asking about Centaurans and there's, you know, they say, oh, well, if people go in there, they don't come out, maybe he gets it into his head that Diane's in there, or at least he wants to go and find out if she's there. And then that's how he ends up in the Centauran's place and how he ends up there. And then similarly, I feel like if he was looking for Diane as his reason for going with the Doctor, that would have made more sense. I kind of don't understand why, the Doctor invited him in the first place, and B, why he accepted, because this isn't just your, oh, I'll show you the stars. This is, there's a huge catastrophic event. I need to go find my friend. This is going to be very, very dangerous. You know, there's less of that reason as to why he would go in the first place, whereas I feel like if he didn't find Diane in the Centaurans or something, or at least got some clue that someone else has got her, that would have been a much better motivation for him wanting to go with the Doctor to try and find Diane, and it would have helped keep her relevant to the story. You know, just reusing characters, I think, is something that Chibnall doesn't do very well, and I think it would be, you know, it's missing a trick, because it means that these characters actually feel like there's a point to them being in the story. So that would be one of my nitpicks and stuff, is the CG and lack of, like, you know, reusing characters and stuff, and I think it's a shame because, you know, it's right there that they could just use those characters instead. And as I said, I'm not the biggest fan of the expositional dialogue, like that really, there was so much of it that I was just watching, I was like, you could cut all that and we'd still understand what was going on. So that is a bit annoying sometimes. But overall, I'm just loving how huge this series is feeling. It feels like such a finale for Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, and I'm just so excited to see what the fuck is going on. Because, like, who are the Ravagers? What do they want? What are they doing? What was the Doctor doing in the Division? What is the Division? What's the Flux? Where did it come from? How are they going to stop it? Who's Vinder? What's Dan going to get up to? Place your bets. I bet you Carvanista dies saving Dan. I'm just calling it now. You know, what are the Whipping Angels doing? How did the Cybermen come into this? Like, I've just got so many questions, and I'm just so excited every single week to watch these episodes. You know, I want to re-watch them in the week, which I haven't wanted to do basically since Tennant's era. So just immaculate. I love it. I think it was absolutely the right decision, and I just cannot wait to see the rest of this series. What do you think of Doctor Who The Flux? Are you excited for it? Have you been enjoying the series so far? Let me know down below. What did you think of Jodie Whittaker's era before that? You know, are you excited? You know, excited to see where the show's going to go after her? Are you going to be sad to see her leave? Also, let me know down in the comments. Feel free to leave a like on this video and feel free to subscribe. At the moment, I'm trying to post videos once or twice every week. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.